Hey guys, the other day I did a webinar with our community. Now it's in our private Discord community, so we don't usually share these insider discussions with the public, but I wanted to just check in and show you guys something that we covered that I think will be extremely valuable. Now, this is how to spot the big gains. So in other words, Everrise, for example, Mini Doge did 100X that we got in on in our group. There's been so many, just one after another. And in our group, Tribe 100X, we work together to bring those into the group, put them in what we call the bucket. We have the scouts put them there. Then the vetters vet them. We go over these with some specific criteria. And there's just been so many that 10X, even some that 100X, that I thought I would just share with you some things that we learned through this recently that I shared in this webinar on Friday. So this isn't the whole webinar. The webinar first discussed spotting the gains, and then we had a part 2 open discussion, and I'll just have you listen to a piece of that, but then you won't listen to all the Q&A, just to get the big pieces. There's some huge results that I go over in this, and you'll see that in the webinar. I'm just insane, some the things that people are getting. And we're focusing our community on another level of categorization. So in other words, we've been following this criteria to spot, great cryptos going into pre-sale to invest into, but we've identified some new ones. So we have these insider sessions, and through these insider sessions, we're able to see what Everrise, Mini Doge, and these types of projects have in common. Mini Doge did the over 100X in 72 hours. And when they got into the pre-sale, we got into this one. Everrise, I think, did something like a 60X at one time. These two projects are still doing really good. Baby XRP doing good. If you go to my Facebook page, you just see, and there's some others too, some testimonies that I'm just pulling out of our private Discord. So I want to help you identify these. So in just a minute, we're going to cut into the webinar that I did to share with you some new insights, some new traits that we're seeing to help identify. How do you see if an Everrise is going to happen before it happens? How do you see a Mini Doge coming out on pre-sale is going to do 100X? So you put more into the pre-sale than you might have otherwise because you recognize these traits, or you put more when it launches on PancakeSwap so you get those life-changing results. But just real quick to show you the kind of results that we've been getting. Jen here posts, thanks for telling me about Dr. Sheba, Paul Maselli, because Paul Maselli is a scout. We always have everyone thank, who put it in the bucket, that let them know about it. I sped in at the low and RIP FT. RIP FT means recoup investment, profit, and leave in free tokens to continue profiting at no risk at that point. So they put in 0.2 and took out 0.22 and still have 0.3 BNB in there as free tokens to keep selling as it goes up. And that's a smaller one. There's lots of small wins. But when do you know when to put a lot more in? Here somebody mentioned they RIP FT'd from Mini Doge, meaning recouped investment profit left in free tokens, and have about 30 BNB of free tokens left in the game. Like, really wrap your head around that. So they already recouped their investment. They posted this on the 11th of July. So they already, they found this in our group, Mini Doge. We had a lot of people in Mini Doge. In fact, we did a live we were doing a live session with our insiders as Mini Doge launched on PancakeSwap before we knew for sure that it would go to the moon. We were in it, so we knew that it might do really, really well. And I'm going to share that soon too, that a link to that live webinar, because it was pretty cool that we were talking about it and watching the price action right when it hit Pancake, and talking about when do you sell, like after you can recoup investment and profit, still leaving free tokens, do you wait for it to go up a little higher? All those little details, slippage, all kinds of things that come up when you're on PancakeSwap selling one of these things. We talk about that. Anyway, he writes, I've RIP FT'd from Mini Doge and have about 30 BNB of free tokens still left in the game. So you got to think about he's already recouped his investment. He's already taken profit. We teach to do 20% profit to 100% profit, depending on what you think about it. He left 30 BNB of free tokens. And of course, after the 11th, that went even higher. And it's still going strong. But some of these are just huge. Cesar Bits of Wealth is a screen name posted, just made 8,750% gains on Anna Inu overnight. And he and another gentleman had shared Anand Inu with us. And by the way, before we start this webinar, I just want you to kind of, a little plug here for our Tribe 100X, because we're really proud of it, of what we've accomplished and what's happening in there for people. I mean, truly life-changing for so many people. And here Brett just shared a few days ago, I left a paid group that I was paying $997 per month to be a part of. I've made more with this group. He's referring to Tribe 100X, which is it's extremely inexpensive. I mean, let's just leave it there. It's a fraction of that. So it's kind of funny. It's peanuts. I've made more with this group than I did the 7 months I was a member of that other group. Thanks, Mike. And just thanks to you, Brett, for giving us a shout out. But guys, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to the call where we talk about new insights that we've garnered as insiders. We meet up regularly, I was saying earlier, and we develop this awareness of how we can anticipate even more of these big gainers. Mini Doge and Everrise have a lot in common. There's some things that we talk about how we can anticipate a baby XRP that did extremely well. So there's some exciting things. In fact, one of our members, I didn't pull that testimony up, but one of our members had shared, in fact, isn't that on my Facebook with, I believe it was baby XRP. Super, yeah, here it is. Super, super cool. She goes, our initial $60 investment at pre-sale, so she put in $60, is now worth $3,500. That happened just in days. Plus the 89 free XRP rewards. So that was baby XRP. And that was also discussed extensively in our group, and a lot of people got in on that one. So anyway, the token, there's ways to anticipate this is what I'm getting at. If you look for it, and this is what we do in our group, and I just wanted to pass on a little snippet. It's actually a pretty detailed snippet from one of our insider sessions where we're discussing what we're seeing that these things have in common. And once you hear about it, it seems obvious, but if you're not zooming in on it, then you're not knowing when to put in more to go have those big gains. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. If you need financial advice on how to invest, what to invest into, hire a financial advisor. We're just sharing like the criteria we're measuring these projects up with. I'm just passing on to you what our community is discussing, what's bubbling to the top that's helping us in a big way, but it's not personal financial advice to you. Always do your own research. And with that said, let's go ahead and plug you in to the webinar I did Friday. This isn't the whole webinar, but a big part of it about how to spot the big gainers. I'll see you soon. All right, welcome everybody to Tribe 100X. Today's session, the real focus is how to spot the gains. The really big gains is being recorded on Friday, July 16th. And we're going to split this up into two different parts. So spotting the gains, those big gainers. And part two of this, we'll open this up to the kind of a question and answer and an open discussion, and be able to give everyone a chance to be able to contribute or ask their questions across the entire membership of Tribe 100X. But we'll start with spotting the gains. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen this in the Your Gains section. But I just want to go through this, kind of set us up for the kinds of things that have been happening. And these are just a few things that people have done and gotten some big results on in the last few days. Like just a few in the last few days. It's like, it's crazy. Even as Bitcoin and the bigger market goes sideways and down, this crypto pre-sales market and microcaps market right out of the gate after they launch on PancakeSwap are doing phenomenally well. Here, somebody posts, I've RIP FT'd, which means recouped investment, profited, and was able to leave in free tokens. And this one was Mini Doge. That was a big one. We'll talk more about that one today. And have about 30 BNB of free tokens left in the game. Like, think about that. So they recouped their investment, profited, and have 30 BNB of free tokens left in the game. So if Mini Doge spikes up between now and the next month, 6 months, whenever, they can sell. They can sell pieces of it and keep taking more. That 30 BNB can turn into 300 BNB. It can turn into 3,000 BNB, but it doesn't even matter because they've already profited. Powerful, powerful, powerful. The potential utility is great. They have a top-notch idea for NFTs that incorporates their game. So it does have a lot of long-term potential. Some of these have less long-term potential. I agree, Mini Doge has a lot of long-term potential. The ones that have less long-term potential, I leave in less tokens, and take more profit up front. Ones that I feel have long-term potential, I'll leave in more free tokens. And then Cesar shared, I just saw this today, just made 8,750% gains. 8,750% gains on a non-Inu overnight. That was last night. I got into a non-Inu roughly a day after Pancake launch and held on through the sideways chop and recent drop. Anonymous, a lot of you know the group Anonymous, released a video last night specifically talking about this project and why they released it, and boom, moon time. Congrats to everyone who profited. I found this coin originally and asked Crypto Wizard to help me get more info and throw it into the bucket. Was never vetted, but was mentioned several times in chats and also posted in technical analysis in the TA. And Cesar does fantastic TA, a lot of great TA coming through there. So plenty of different places you could have found it in there if you're just poking around. It was on the pre-show, so it was being set up for us to discuss in the Insider, but we just hadn't gotten to it this week yet. This will be a long-term hold for me. I have a feeling it will be the new Doge. I mean, it looks like it already was. And I don't know if I'm wrong on this, and anybody can look it up and confirm, but I looked this up after seeing Cesar's post, and it's already at like well over 1 billion market caps. This is incredible how fast these things can change. And so, how fast they can go up, which is the power of the free token strategy. You RIP FT, recoup investment profit, leaving free tokens. And you don't know, some of these we can anticipate. We're going to talk about how to spot the gains beforehand. Some of them you can't. We're going to be setting up, we're not only going to go over today how to spot the gains that we've been able to identify, even more so than the crypto pre-sale strategy. I'd always said the whole point of this is to work together as a team to even further niche down other criteria or traits that we can identify to anticipate the ones that are going to go boom, so we can put more into those and get those really big wins. We're going to talk about some of that that we've identified already that we can begin applying, but we're also setting up measures to be able to catch and identify future trends and future traits that have not even yet been spotted, so we can accumulate more and more insight into where we're going to want to put the most money. Because the crypto pre-sale strategy is like a base general strategy that doesn't and can't account for what's going to change over time. Things will change, trends will change. So we're setting up measures, and we're going to get deep into that today. Super simple though, super simple. We're going to get into that deep today of really clear things we've already identified, to be able to identify very specific projects that have already gone huge that we can now look for and know with high probability will go huge if we see those traits again. But what I'm saying is I'm also going to talk about things that we're doing to set it up so we can identify new traits. And we won't always know everything. That's not what this is about. It's about knowing as much as we can. And there's specific things, there's specific traits that when we see them, we know that we have a high probability that those are going to go huge. We're going to talk about that today. And I guess my point here is, even in the cases, the ones in between that we don't know, a lot of them are going to spring up too, in between the big ones that we can predict with high probability. Caddy posts made 0.65 BNB on Miss Doge. Thanks for the vetters and all. Here, I'm not able to say people's screen names really fast. TrickQuin50, RIP FT, Miss Doge, put in 1 BNB, took out I don't know if it was 0.1 BNB or 1 BNB, took out 0.183, left in 6 billion free tokens. Super awesome. If they're able to RIP FT, that means recouped investment, profited, and left in the free tokens. RIP FT on Miss Doge, put in 0.5 BNB. This is Kevin, took out 0.6 BNB and have 37 billion free tokens left. So a lot of these small wins are still huge because you're leaving in free tokens that can spike, right? And we'll be hitting all of these in between the giant ones that we're looking for and waiting for. They don't come around every day, but maybe come around a few times a month. Between those big monsters that we're going to talk about how to identify today, there'll be lots of these littler ones that are still huge, because not only are you profiting, you're leaving in free tokens. So and you can almost say when, because for many of these, but if they spike, you can sell those free tokens and still get a lot on the little ones. Jen posts, thanks for telling me about Dr. Shiba. Paul Maselli, I sped in at the low and RIP FT'd. I put in 0.2 and took out 0.22. So she made her 20% profit. Recouped investment, still have over 0.3 of BNB in there. So I pointed this out on Wednesday. It's amazing that she has more in BNB left in free tokens than she originally even put in the first place. So there's no risk left anymore for her. So what I'm trying to get at is there's a lot of these smaller ones that can then become big. And Miss Doge and Dr. Shiba may have become big recently. I don't even know. Like, there's so many of them. My point is there'll be a lot of small ones where you're recouping investment, you're profiting, you're leaving in free tokens. where maybe they don't meet the big standards that I'm going to talk about today, where you can anticipate a high probability that they're going to be huge. Maybe they don't always meet that, or we're not sure yet. And you're still getting wins along the way there. Yes, there'll be rug pulls in between. Yes, there'll be some that you buy into and they drop. But if you want to be conservative, you could just wait for the big criteria to match up. If you're going to be more patient, you could do that and just wait for the big ones. If you want to just go for the general crypto pre-sale strategy, you're going to get some rug pulls. In many cases, you won't lose it all. You can still profit in some of those rug pulls, or you might lose a little and get out. You'll run into some where it's not a rug pull, but you bought in and maybe they had some wacky launch and it drops, and you might just leave them in, or you might sell at a loss. There's going to be those in between. You're going to have some of these little ones where you rip FT and you got some free tokens in there that could spike and you could sell. And then you're going to have the big ones that you can plan for with high probability that I'm going to talk about, that meet the rarer, but still several times a month criteria, that have just the massive results. Things like baby XRP. And I don't even mention Everrise. I'm going to talk about Everrise later. And we did have one for Mini Doge. I mean, there's been Mini Doge was on 100x in 3 days. So there's some huge ones. Baby XRP has turned out to be a good one, a very good one. 2,045%. It actually went way beyond that. But at the time that I made this slide, 2,045% that MB Trader 67 got, that was turning $155 into 3,100. He bought it on July 3rd. I can't remember when he posted this, but I think it was a 10-day gain. What I'm trying to get at, guys, is some of you are new to this and you're not able to get into some of them and you're frustrated. You feel like you're missing out. You haven't had that big hit yet. What we're saying is there's so much evidence here. It shouldn't be hard to see that if you zero in on this, or we're going to talk about how to zero in on it, even if you're missing some, even if you're missing a lot of them, even if you tried to get into some, but they were too full, even if then you were rug pulled and you lost a little BNB. What I'm saying is the strategy still has this phenomenal positive outcome if you stick with it, even for a short period of time, because there's so many of these big ones and middle-sized ones, and there will be little ones that you do get into and rip FT, leave in free tokens, sell at the spike. And then there's some monsters. A big dog here posted, and this is a rewards token, right? That pays in XRP just for holding the token. And so he shared that here's my 3-day payout. So if you hold the token for 3 days, it pays you XRP. And he's saying he got $3,000 worth. Now, that's not to say that everybody who buys into baby XRP now is going to get such a high payout. In fact, we're going to talk a little bit about, how we could kind of anticipate if something's going to do this well again. So when you see one like this, to put more into it, like Big Dog knew to do. I believe he put in 8 BNB. So he knew to put in, there were things that he saw that told him to put more into it. We're going to talk about criteria that we can anticipate to know there's a high probability for something like this to duplicate. So when you see it in the pre-sale, to put more into it. What I'm getting at, guys, is there's so many big ones. I mean, just a handful a week, and you might miss a lot of those. So you might only be able to, with your schedule, do a handful a month, but they're so massive in returns that there's going to be a lot of times where you don't get into some. Doesn't matter, because there's so many when you get the big wins, it's crazy. And he's still going to get returns every 3 days. He has 7 trillion tokens now. He's one of the top holders, and he rip FT'd. It was all free. He goes 7 trillion tokens. It's all free tokens at this point, since my initial investment of 8 BNB is covered from the rewards. So the rewards that he got already paid for the tokens. And he's going to continue to get the passive income, super high amount, because he saw something here that told him to put in more. And that's what we're getting at here, guys, is if you're able to zero in, and that's what the whole focus of the whole group should be, to continue to zero in on which ones and what criteria are they meeting that have a high probability of being exceptionally big, so to put more in those with a high level of probability. And I just want to remind everybody, be sure to share your gains in the members section, under members category, under the Your Gains channel. I know it's a little extra step, but we want to celebrate with you. And we also want to, if you can, take the time to do a quick search, for the one that you got the gains in, So you can name and thank, by screen name, the scout or the vetter or the person who did the technical analysis that helped lead you to this, because we want to continue to encourage that, right? Like, that's how you found it. Be sure to give them recognition. If you found it, then just say so. That's awesome. We'd like to, celebrate with you as well if you were the one to bring it in. But share your gains, definitely. Okay, so let's talk about spotting the gains. And then, like I said, we'll open this up to discussion and Q&A. So I just kind of referenced this, and I decided to just put a screenshot in here and read it just to make sure everyone understands that, this is the primary focus now. We are focusing the community on how to identify the big money makers that see between a 10x to 100x in a matter of days before they go on pre-sale, or immediately after they hit PancakeSwap, to be able to recognize it, so that maybe to put more into that one, or to definitely not miss that one. If we bring the whole community's attention to it, and we continue to set up new structure so that it's easier and easier for us to identify and communicate when we see those things, obviously that just exponentiates the amount of returns we can get, because we know to put in more, there's a higher probability to put in more. And also, more people will be able to take advantage of the big ones and not miss those ones, because everyone's attention is on, wow, here's one that's meeting those special criteria we talked about. And by the way, that's something that can change with the market. So it's something we have to be on top of. We want to set up structures where we can communicate the changes that happen. So I'm going to talk about what's hot now, what we're looking for now. I'm going to talk a little bit about structures we're putting in place so that we can always be on top of what's hot when things new, appear. And that we're like the first ones to be on top of it, to identify it, to be able to communicate it. So a lot more people in here get to take advantage of them. And there's a higher probability they're going to be a win. So you put more into it. Again, not financial advice, guys. I always have to keep reminding, this is not personal financial advice to you. This is a strategy that we're working together as a community. Always do your own research. You're making your own decisions. And if you need help making individual, independent investment decisions, you hire a financial advisor. We're a community working together, following a certain organization and structure, looking for traits and stuff together, helping each other. But, we're making these decisions as individuals ourselves, and we need to hire financial advisors if we're seeking individual advice. Okay, so one of the new categories that we came up with on our recent insider calls was called GOAT. It's a new category. You might remember in the crypto pre-sale strategy, I said the power of having these categories, and we talked about meme hype coins and utility tokens, and those are all ways to identify things, and we should continue to do that with the previous categories. But now there's an additional subcategory that we want to look for called GOAT, and it stands for greatest of all time, for those familiar with that term in sports. Greatest of all time. So for example, Everrise did like a 60x right away. And I might be off a little bit on that, but it was massive, somewhere around there. I was just kind of estimating. Very close to 60x. Mini Doge did a 100x, over a 100x. Now it's now sitting much lower than that, but still it's massive. Even if you didn't sell at the peak and you held on to it, it's still massive. But it did 100x at its peak so far, and it may go way beyond that. For those who ripped FT, who are hanging on to free tokens, it may go way beyond that, who are still hanging on to free tokens. So, we want to ask ourselves, and we did on the insider calls, we've had a lot of these discussions, what did those two projects have in common? And I'm going to list the main ones here. And when you see something meet those criteria that's coming up in a pre-sale in the future, to shout it from the rooftops, to bring everyone's attention to it, and to refer to it as a GOAT, greatest of all time. And so super valuable to be able to pinpoint this. And guys, there's nothing complicated about this. That's what's so cool about this. There's absolutely nothing complex. It doesn't require, while we have an awesome group of TAs, and you can go to the technical analysis section and have TAs really break it down in simple terms. And we're going to actually do some calls and sessions for those that want to dive deeper into understanding technical analysis. You don't need to know technical analysis to identify a GOAT. There's nothing technical or complicated at all about it. And that's important for people that are new to this process. It's just a beautiful thing that we're able to identify these characteristics, these qualities, and it's super simple to do. Once we're zoomed in on it, once we know that's what we're looking for, you increase your probability of becoming a millionaire starting with a very small amount of money with this historically unprecedented opportunity with cryptocurrency pre-sales on the Binance Smart Chain. It undeniably is a historical moment in terms of what someone can turn a small amount of money into in a short period of time. And to know that it's this simple, once you know to zoom in on it, and to know that we're talking about all this regularly, if you can't be in on all the calls, it's being passed on to you. I mean, it's this massive value that we're all getting, myself included, out of working together and talking about these kinds of things and zooming in. So here are the criteria for the GOATs, for the ones that have a high probability of doing a 10x to 100x in a few days from their launch or more. One is they have an all-star marketing team. Well, let's just say an all-star team. This page is about an all-star team, but I'm putting these, as you see in this last bullet, in priority. They're prioritized in this order. An all-star marketing team is probably the most important in terms of predicting the success it's going to have. And so that is a marketing team with one or more people on it who have already taken a previous crypto project to 10x, 100x or more. Obviously, they know what they're doing. So this kind of supersedes all other criteria in terms of anticipating probability and potential of significant success, which is going to impact my decision. Again, I can't give you personal financial advice, but it's certainly going to impact my decision and how much I'm going to put into the darn thing. If I know they've got an all-star marketing team, I'm going to be putting in a lot more as long as it meets the other criteria. There's a few other things here, but you can almost be 100% sure. You just well look and make sure, but you can be pretty sure that if they got an all-star marketing team, they're probably hitting high on all our other criteria by default. And then they got to have an all-star. We'll talk in a minute about how we can know if they have an all-star marketing team. Maybe you're new and you don't have any way of knowing. We're going to talk about that. But these are the criteria to look for, that we all should be looking for, to know that we've got a GOAT on our hands. We've got one that's going to do 100x, 10x minimum, 20x, 30x, probably 60x. All-star marketing team, all-star dev team, all-star admin. Now, if all they have is someone on their all-star admin team and they don't have anyone that's on the all-star marketing team, all-star dev team, we take that into consideration. I wouldn't consider that a GOAT. I wouldn't ape into it the same level as if they had an all-star marketing team. If they just have an all-star in their admin, a name of somebody who's helped admin previous projects that went 100x, but we take it into account. It certainly bumps everything up. But the biggest one is all-star marketing team. The second biggest one is all-star dev. Third one is all-star admin in terms of importance. I'm going to say it again. I wouldn't consider them a GOAT if all they had was an all-star admin. Ideally they have all three. If there's an all-star one or more person on their marketing team, an all-star dev, and an all-star one or more person on their admin team, I mean, you can pretty much know it's going to go 50x. And again, not financial advice. This is just how I am approaching it, looking at it. We're talking about probability here. As we continue with these, they need to score high on all marks. When I say all marks, I mean everything in the crypto pre-sale strategy. Communication, all the stuff. I don't want to go over them again. Everything in the crypto pre-sale strategy. Be sure to print out the PDF, which you'll find a link to under the full class. When you log into the video area where the full class is, there's a link to the PDF, and you can look in written form for all of the crypto pre-sale criteria that you want to check off. You want to make sure a project meets. All the general crypto pre-sale criteria that we've always looked at and talked about. It obviously needs to score high on all those marks too. But I would suggest that I'm sure if they have an all-star marketing team and an all-star dev team or one or the other, you're going to see that they probably do score high on all the marks or they wouldn't be there. The next one is you're going to see extra momentum early. Everrise's Telegram group, Mini Doge's Telegram group, tens of thousands of people were in it leading up to the pre-sale. In both cases, they had multiple hundreds of people on their voice chat. One of them, I can't remember which one, was over 1,000 people. It might have been both of them, over 1,000 people in their voice chat. Extremely high numbers in their voice chat during the pre-launch, before the pre-launch. Major indicator this is something that's going to go boom. And again, if they have an all-star marketing team and you're seeing that, that's the kind of thing personally I am going to ape into. Ape into means I'm going to put a lot into the pre-sale. I'm going to put a lot into it when it hits PancakeSwap. if it meets these criteria. Voice chat is a priority. If you go to Baby XRP right now, which a lot of people have reported making a lot of returns with here early, if you go to Baby XRP, you're going to notice their voice chat is almost always open, if not 24/7 open. I think they might, every once in a while it's down, but it's open almost 24/7. Everrise literally made a public commitment, or yeah, I think it was Everrise. Yeah, made a public commitment. They call it Everrise Radio or something like that. That it was going to always be open. Mini Doge, same thing. I can't remember a time I went into Mini Doge after the launch when it wasn't open. So when you continue to see that early, that kind of a commitment, you know that's what you're dealing with. That's something kind of after the fact. You certainly want to see some voice chat, quite a bit of voice chat leading up to the pre-sale. Might not be open all the time leading up to the pre-sale. But still it's a priority. And then after the fact, we're just saying kind of as a cherry on top that you know you're in the right one, you see that voice chat remaining a priority even after launch. Now, here's some interesting stuff. And again, as insiders in the insider conversations, we're going to continue to talk about this because this can change, or there might be anomalies or outliers to this. But we're noticing that the big winners, just speaking a little bit more generally now, the big gainers, the emphasis is on tokenomics. So I know a lot of you have gotten excited about, there was one called M Content, and there were some other ones that didn't really turn out the way you thought they would. But when you looked at the site or you looked at what they were offering, it was really good. And long term, you still think it has a lot of potential, perhaps, where it was just something really high value that they're putting together, really strong on utility and concept, and or maybe a phenomenal presentation on top of all of that. And yet maybe they weren't really scoring really high in the other areas. Like maybe they didn't have an all-star marketing team or an all-star well-known dev. So, but the emphasis was really on like this amazing utility plan or something. And I'm not saying that a project that meets the GOAT criteria won't necessarily have a strong utility concept. Mini Doge, although being heavy on meme coin initially with its branding, still emphasized this incredibly elaborate plan and vision that they spent a long time communicating about what they wanted to develop, with their token. Everrise still has a pretty strong emphasis on the token, on the utility of what they want to create. But the stronger emphasis out of the gate is most certainly the tokenomics in both those cases. So it's another criteria we're looking at right now. Now that trend can change, and that might require additional nuanced discussion. Or are there outliers that we're seeing, like something launches that does 100x that didn't emphasize tokenomics at all? I haven't seen any recently. And so, and if there are some, they're not as common. So there's no question that an emphasis on the tokenomics. Tokenomics means, for example, Everrise really emphasized their buyback system, where they had this automated, they've now made it not automated, but it started out being an automated buyback process where every buy and sell charged a tax, as these often do, but part of their tax went to a little pool that would literally buy on the open market from. They would use it to buy back, which they could use to control, some of the price fluctuation, or if something started dropping, they could that would help stabilize the price or even increase it. People are obviously really excited about that right now. It had a major impact on theirs. That's what we mean by an emphasis on tokenomics. Mini Doge, though, again, they have an elaborate vision for utility and what they want to do in terms of building a real use for their token. That sounds pretty exciting if they end up developing it out. Nonetheless, if you go to their site, the main emphasis, and we know the main driver of their success by the way it was all presented pretty clearly, was on the tokenomics and on the fact that they had communicated on their site what they felt was a better job with that buyback concept, and they called it auto boost, and they spent time talking about that. And you'll notice an inverse relationship to the price between Everrise and Mini Doge, because what that means is when Everrise goes up, the Mini Doge goes down, and vice versa. What that tells us is they're dipping into the same market, who's probably very attracted to that tokenomics, that auto boost / Kraken Everrise calls it Kraken, that buyback protocol is probably appealing to some of the same market. And we can see that that's a very strong market. And so again, that's not the only tokenomics. We can look at Baby XRP, another one where it was also strong on tokenomics, in this case, a different type of tokenomics. It was a rewards token. And when we call it emphasis on, when we're saying it has an emphasis on tokenomics, what I mean by that, Baby XRP, is while they didn't do the buyback, they actually emphasized when they were marketing it that they're not doing the buyback. That was actually their emphasis in their marketing message. And then instead, they had a lot of tax, like a lot of these do on the buy and sell, some of it going to marketing, some of it, like a lot of these do, so to make it a strong project, some of it going to liquidity, as it should, so that you can always buy and sell this. You always want it in liquidity. But another percentage of it was going to pay in XRP, Ripple rewards to holders. And so that's what I mean by a lot of these that are really doing really well. They have an emphasis on some kind of unique type of tokenomics. I'm going to go one step further on this and mention that, well, I think I have it here, the third bullet. So I just want to emphasize the second bullet here. Buybacks are hot right now. Again, Everrise and Mini Doge, I was talking about that buyback slash Mini Doge calls it auto boost, that protocol built into the tokenomics where it buys back. That's hot right now. Does that mean it will always be hot? No. So that's what we have to watch. And that's what, as a community, we should be focused on. Yeah, but we know that they're hot right now, or they have been extremely hot. We know that when something new is introduced that strikes a similar chord as something previous, but is slightly new, those are almost always hot. And I'm going to ape into every darn one of them, especially if they have an all-star on their marketing team, an all-star on their dev team, and they're hitting all the criteria, which I'm assuming they would always if they have an all-star. And I see they're introducing a new spin on tokenomics. That's what we want to look for, guys. Right there, what I just said, that's what we want to look for. If you didn't catch it, we're going to keep talking about it till you do. If you're new and you're not following, we're going to keep talking about it till you get it, because this is what it's all about. And I'm going to talk about what we're going to do as a group to make sure it's easier and easier and easier for to catch these, spot these, so you know what to ape into. So to have those insane wins, like insane gains. New reward tokens are hot. So I just wanted to mention that's an example of what I mean. Baby XRP is a perfect example of what we mean by like a new spin on old tokenomics, that now we know that's what we're looking for. We can get in front of and make a killing on. So here's what I mean. Baby XRP was playing off of the old tokenomics concept, old meaning like a couple months old or whatever, in this market, that's old, where rewards tokens used to reward in BNB. Someone came out with BUSD. I don't know how well that one did. The first one that did BUSD, it probably did well. I didn't pay attention because I had so much going on, so many of these. But what I'm saying is I did notice that Baby XRP did phenomenally well. And a lot of it is due to the fact that they were the first to pay Ripple XRP to holders. So it's not like it was that new or innovative. The concept of rewarding people for holding a token, I mean, SafeMoon started that. There might even been someone before them, but SafeMoon was the first one. And that's why they did so well, because it was a new spin on tokenomics that SafeMoon first did, but only they rewarded people with SafeMoon. And then someone came along, I think it was called Moonrat. HODL claimed to be the first, but it was actually Moonrat, as far as we know, that first came out with, instead of paying you in Moonrat native token, like SafeMoon pays in the SafeMoon token, we're going to reward holders in BNB. And then HODL came out with that and did kind of a better job of presenting it and did really, really well. So we know some of the copycats of new tokenomics can do really well too. We have to keep our eye out for that. Not as well, but well enough. And then HODL came out with basically copying Moonrat, but also the new spin that they put on it, because they did phenomenally well. They went to like 100 million market cap right away. They dropped way down now, but huge success early on that we would want to get in front of. And we could have anticipated that. We could know that now with this new criteria we're looking for. even though I don't know if they had an all-star dev or all-star marketing team, we weren't looking at that yet at that time. We now will be, but they did hit all the marks high on their launch. You know, aside from us looking at the all-star dev or all-star team, they hit all the marks high, and they were a new spin on tokenomics because they were paying BNB as a reward, but only in well, they were just actually an outright copy of Moonrat, as far as I understand. I didn't find Moonrat till afterwards. But so again, those copycats can do really good if they're doing a better job than maybe the innovator, which isn't usually the case, but in their case it was. But following the storyline, what I'm trying to get to is then Tiki came out. Then Tiki came out and they made it for the first time that it was auto deposited into your account. So it was still a BNB reward token, but it was automatically deposited into your account. You didn't have to manually do it like you did with Moonrat and HODL. So even that slight little change is what I'm saying to the tokenomics was enough to have that be a huge win, and we could anticipate that. It's playing off old tokenomics, but a slight twist that's new and innovative in a way. Again, Tiki making so the BNB was automatically deposited into your account. Baby XRP, phenomenally well again, with the new spin and all this, basically the same thing, except what makes it innovative is they decided to pay an XRP. It's not that much of a difference. And they're even paying it out manually. So it's kind of funny. It's basically the same thing, but they did do some new things with their tokenomics. Like, for example, saying you had to hold the token, you had to hold it for 3 days before you would get paid. So that's kind of helping boost up the price. A little bit of the buyback type concept of helping stabilize that price without, ways to make it so it's incentivizing holding. Let's just say that helps boost the price. So what I'm getting at, let's make this simple for those of you who are new. They have to have so the GOAT projects these are the big winners, the huge winners, all-star marketing team or an all-star dev, basically. And then if they have that and an all-star admin, it's huge. Scores high in all the marks, all the crypto pre-sale strategy marks. If you don't know what they are, watch the class, download the PDF. It's all in there. We've talked about them a million times. And if they have, like I was saying, I'm just doing a recap. If they have an all-star team, they're probably going to be scoring high in all the marks. Extra momentum early. I talked about Everrise and Mini Doge as an examples. Telegram group with tens of thousands of people in it, over 1,000 people on their voice chats before the pre-launch started. Voice chat is a priority. You see them in there a lot. And then the emphasis is on tokenomics on these big winners. And right now, buybacks are hot, or the auto boost, kind of like Everrise and Mini Doge had, where they have this built-in protocol where they're automatically buying back or they're manually buying back out of the pooled funds. And also new reward tokens, like I said, are hot. And when I say new, it could just be a new spin on an old concept, like I just gave some examples. So these are the things that we're looking for. When we find them, we shout from the mountaintops. It's a GOAT, a GOAT, if it has an all-star team and matches up with any of the rest of that, or scores high in marks, extra momentum early, voice chat's a priority, and then either of emphasis on tokenomics or maybe it's a new reward token, but doesn't need to be a reward token. That's just a certain type of tokenomics. Now, will I only invest in GOAT projects? No, that's what I was trying to say earlier. You can make a lot of money in between the GOAT projects. We've seen a few GOAT projects over the last few weeks, so we know they're consistently coming out. It's not like you have to wait forever. But, I know a lot of people are like excited to do one, so you kind of force yourself doing this one, that one, and you couldn't get into that one, and you got in a rug pull in that one, another one you bought, and then it went down. It's like you got to see the bigger picture, that if you're new and you're really still getting a handle on things, you might want to be slower about aping into stuff and be more selective. That's one option. Or if your schedule allows, go ahead and ape into, or not ape, I don't want to say ape into, because that kind of insinuates you're putting a lot into it, but go ahead and jump on a bunch of them. That's the general crypto pre-sale strategy. If your schedule allows, jump into a lot of them with a little bit and then learn through that process. Because what I'm saying is you're going to hit a lot of little wins along the way. And as long as you're rip FTing like you're supposed to, like the moment you can rip FT, you do, and you leave in free tokens, and then you just keep checking up on those. So if those free tokens you left in spike and you sell a little bit more, it doesn't matter if you couldn't get in on some, doesn't matter if some rug pull, because there's so many little wins in between. It's going to overtake that and make it an overall win for you. On our last webinar, for example, I don't know if Charles is here, but Charles was on our last call, and he was kind of saying, I'm having trouble getting in on them, and I'm FOMOing in because people are getting excited about something that's mooning, and they're saying it in the chat, and I jump in, and I lost on this one, and I got into M content, and it dropped, but then we learned it, overall he's ahead, and that's what matters. If overall from the strategy you're ahead, that's what matters. And also, if you're following the strategy and you're ahead and you're leaving in free tokens as you're ahead, then you're setting yourself up when Bitcoin and the whole market starts to go up, all those free tokens, most of them are going to skyrocket 10x, 50x, some of them 100x, some of them more. And so if you're ahead at all and you haven't hit a big one yet, a GOAT, and you're ahead at all from the strategy by just being consistent, and you're not really doing a good job yet of ascertaining which ones to put more in and less in, and you're just kind of putting a little into all of them, and you're losing on a lot of them, and you're missing a lot of them, and you can't get into a lot of them, and you got rug pulled on this one, but you're still overall ahead because you're winning a lot of the little ones, and you have free tokens in there because you're rip FTing like you should, that's a huge, huge win. That's a massive win. And you will get into a massive gain one. You will get into the one of the big ones. They're coming, and we're going to do things to make it easier to identify. So let's talk about how we're going to make it easier. So honing in on being able to accomplish that, honing in on being able to anticipate which one's the monster. So you put more into that, and you have a high probability of knowing it will do well. Again, not financial advice. We're not saying to invest into something just because it meets this criteria. We can't say that. We're not financial advisors. We cannot say that. We can just say, this is the strategy I'm following. We're explaining why I'm following it. This is a strategy the community is working together to follow. But you got to do your own research and make your own independent decisions. If it doesn't make sense to you, then you shouldn't do it. If you need someone else, a professional, to help see if this makes sense to you, you need to go hire a financial advisor and have that conversation. Okay, so honing in. Here's what we're going to do as a community to hone in even more and identify future trends and characteristics to know which ones are the monsters coming, and to be able to spot and shout from the rooftops when we see one that meets the GOAT criteria or some of those criteria. We're going to make it so that, set it up so that there's new vetter standards. So there's a format of what vetters are doing, and vetters, don't worry about it yet, and don't stop vetting yet. Don't wait for this, please. Don't wait for this. We needed this whole system flowing with new things coming in the bucket, new things ending up in the vetter posts, and all the extra additional things we've been trying to do, like the insider calls happening regularly, et cetera. We needed that flowing before we could take it to the next level. And we definitely don't want it slowing down. Like, we need that flowing. And so if you've been vetting, if you've been scouting, don't wait for more clarity. Just keep following the previous standards until the new standards come out. Super, super important. The flow must continue. That's key, because a lot of people are having huge wins, and even people like Charles the other day sharing all these challenges he's having. Couldn't get into this one, couldn't get into that one, got into this one, got in that one, lost on this one, got rug pulled on that one, this one went down, but he's still up. And he's got free tokens piling up in these things if he's rip FTing as he should, which means he's setting himself up for massive gains when the market changes. All the while, he's getting closer and closer, zeroing in on the big monster, the big 100x. So again, don't slow down what's happening waiting for these new standards. The new standards are coming out. I'm going to be meeting with vetters. I'm going to have more meetings with just scouts. I'm going to fine tune, but there will be new vetter standards coming out to identify these criteria and to have that be communicated in the posts pretty soon. But again, do not wait for that. If you're vetting, keep vetting until we have that call. So scouts will also be on the lookout. And again, scouts, just if you see something, just put an asterisk at the end of your post saying, I think this might be a GOAT. I recognize one of the names in the project is the same one that was in Everrise, the dev. If you don't recognize it, that's okay, but we're going to do things and put things in place, and I'm going to talk about it here, to make it easier and easier for everybody to start recognizing the GOAT criteria. So there will be new vetter standards to identify these things that will go into the post. Scouts will be on the lookout, and as we go forward, we'll be more and more aware of when something meets the standard. We'll add that to their posts. because we really want to shout from the rooftops when we see a project that meets the GOAT criteria, because that's something that's going to go massive. We want everyone in our community to know about it. And then there's going to be a new top focus for our insider session. So this will be the main focus of our insider sessions. Is there anything in there that might be a GOAT? What can we do to find a GOAT? Of everything in the vetter category, of everything in the bucket, you know, the whole insider conversation is going to mainly be, let's sort and sift for the GOAT projects or things that come close to the GOAT criteria. Even if that means, hey, this one's hitting all the marks. They don't have an all-star dev that we're aware of. They don't have an all-star marketing thing, but I do recognize an all-star admin. Let's look more closely at that one. That kind of thing. So we can zero in on the big gainers. So instead of putting, you know, 0.01 BNB or 0.1 BNB, we might put in 0.5 or 5 BNB or more. We might be more apt to jump into it when it hits on PancakeSwap when we see these things. There'll be a new category for all-star team lists and discussions. So in the group, we're going to add a new section to start listing out the names and or screen names, either first and last names, or a way to identify all-star marketing team, all-star devs, and all-star admin, so that we can be looking at that, get familiar with that. And when we see that some project has one of those all-stars on it, you know, we shout it from the mountaintops. We look a lot more closely at it. So a new category in the private Discord group is coming. Start listing those out and to build discussion around it. Super, super valuable, massive, super big, simple way to highlight which projects have a high probability of success. And then we're setting up a new Ninja group. A lot of you have heard me talk about this. I meant to have a session yesterday, but it took many days, a lot more days than I thought. And I was getting frustrated. And then I got the calculator out and it made perfect sense why it was taking that long. It was just a kind of a big project for my VA to categorize all the information that I need to know which scouts, which vetters, which TAs are most active in our group. And for me to be able to have like a system in place where I can always see that every day and every week and every month. And those that have been most active, and I don't have a way of specifying it yet. I got it. I'm still waiting for a little bit more information, but we're gonna have a ninja group. Those that we can just jump in and have faster conversations, deeper conversations, because they're the most active in the group. And our focus will be on identifying not only what projects we might be seeing that meet the GOAT standards so we can let the community know and so we can know about them, but also identifying new trends, because there's going to be new trends. There's always going to be new trends, and naming new criteria and coming up with new, you know, categories to describe new trends and new things that we're looking for, kind of like what we're talking about today, because it will always be evolving, so that we're getting better and better and better and better at finding and communicating and anticipating which projects are most likely based on probability, based on the trends right now. Like right now, I talked about emphasis on tokenomics being a major one of those. Which ones are going to go huge? So, okay, so yeah, so that's it. So let's open this up for discussion. I think the very first thing we should do before you ask me a question or have something to contribute outside of what we just discussed, I just want to open it up and go ahead and you know, lower your hand. Let's start. We will open this up to general anything in a minute, but for right now, on the topic specifically of, you know, spotting the gainers, and on the topic specifically of the criteria and the trends of it being like, you know, emphasis on tokenomics, of the GOAT category, like of how to spot the winners of the all-star team, all the things I talked about so far today. Let's keep the questions or, you know, any additional thoughts first on just that. Anybody have anything they wanted to ask about what I covered? Anything additional they want to contribute to what I just covered? And then we'll open this up to other questions, other topics. Go ahead and unmute yourself and say your name.
Hi, Mike.
Yeah, who's this?
It's Shaz, Orange there. I
Chaz?
hopped in a few minutes late, but I just posted under the pre-show. I think it's a good little case study, unless someone has questions first. It covers exactly what you were just talking about with the goat.
Okay, cool. Let me go check it out.
Sure.
Yeah, and for those that are members that are usually on our insider calls, we have a section called pre-show.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I didn't know this was a general call.
You know, it's okay. We're gonna jump into the pre-show section here in a bit, where we put projects or topics we want to discuss on the insider calls. On the topic of goat, well, actually, I'll show my screen here so everyone can see it. On the topic of goat, I had posted this in the bucket that Drew, who was marketing for Everrise, is the marketing advisor for this. So just kind of share with me. So it has All-Star Marketing, Drew. Gotcha. So you're saying this is Everrise?
No, this is something I launched 2 hours ago. I put it in the bucket yesterday. It
Gotcha.
went live 2 hours
I
ago.
see. Drunk Doge.
Yeah, I did a 80x in 40 minutes because of kind of the team. And
Gotcha.
that's what we've been talking about.
Exactly. So, so when did you post this in the bucket?
I posted this yesterday, and I was active in the pre-sale section when there's a few people that knew about it. I didn't want to vet it because I feel it's kind of a conflict. If I put something in a bucket and I vet it, I'm obviously biased.
No, there's no conflict. It's just additional information.
Yeah, no, I just wanted a second pair of eyes because I feel like I'm going to obviously be like, oh, it's great.
Well, I mean, if it has an all-star team, I don't know
Yeah.
that we needed a second pair of eyes. So you're saying that Drunk Doge, you put it in the bucket yesterday.
Yep.
It had an all-star marketing team, which is Drew, had an all-star dev team, Kara.
Yeah, Kara's like an influencer on Twitter, and she kind of does projects that she vets, and she's had some really good calls. So she was the one leading that.
And it had unique tokenomics, emphasis was on
Yeah.
tokenomics. And you're saying it already did an 80x since the pre-sale.
In 45 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a perfect example.